mental health from where we discuss about different topics, different mental health taboo issues, and the purpose behind this is to destigmatize and be able to talk about different things. All right. So my name is Afra Arshad. I'm CEO and founder. I'm I'm the CEO and founder of Clean Therapy Wellness. I've done my master's in clinical and counseling psychology, and I have more than 7.5 experience in this field. I've been providing workshops and different seminars since more than 2 years. All right. Um, I would also like to thank our wonderful sponsors, Wellbeing Hub, We Protect You, and Amlan Sari. They have been supportive throughout this journey. They have been supportive throughout this journey, and uh, they have been providing this. They are spreading this awareness through social media and being part of us. So thank you so much. Last but not the least, I would like to welcome our speaker, Zoha Ali. Zoha, I hope that you are with us. Thank you so much for being part of today's episode. She will be talking about challenging behaviors or communication attempts. And always remember that this is a safe space. So if you have any questions, anything that you want to discuss, Zoha would be happy to cater you. Over to you, Zoha.
Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. I hope you all can view my screen. All right. Okay. I'm very honored to be here today, and I would like to thank Afra and Team Therapy Wellness for starting such an amazing initiative and for giving me an opportunity to talk about something that is so close to my heart, how we see behaviors in neurodivergent children, especially those with autism. Too often, when we see a child indulge in challenging behaviors, what we call challenging behaviors, we label them as stubborn, naughty, or even spoiled, without realizing that there must be something going on behind the scenes because that's the reason why they're indulging in those behaviors. Before we move on, I would like to ask you all a question. How many of you have ever seen a child throw a tantrum in public, be it at the mall, at some restaurant, at school, or a grocery store, or even at home? You could speak through your mic, or you could also ask me questions or answer your questions in the chat box. Okay, so Ansa is saying my own little cousins do it. Could you describe the behavior to me? How does their tantrum look like? What do they do? They lay on the floor trying to bite them things. I have. Okay, so basically we've all seen it, right? We've all seen tantrums in public by children. So what if I tell you that those behaviors that they're indulging in is not to cause distress or to cause tantrum, it's because they're trying to communicate something that we don't know. And that's what we're going to rethink today. So why is this talk so important for us? In Pakistan, there is a general lack of awareness surrounding neurodivergence and autism. Families face a lot of blame and stigma because there is no awareness. And some families are told that their child is possessed by a jinn. That's why their child has autism. Some are told that it's due to black magic. Some are told it's cause of a vaccine, or maybe it's just bad parenting. Okay, and because of that, there's a lot of lack of awareness and acceptance being, and which is why we need acceptance in the first place. So talking about this issue is very, very important for us so that we can help create awareness as much as we can. So moving on, first of all, let's clear this very early on. Autism is not caused by genes, it's not caused by any magic. It is not a parent's fault. It is not caused by vaccines. When I was doing my research, I found out that vaccine is, said to be one of the biggest myths worldwide. And research has shown time and time again that vaccines do not cause autism. Parents run after quick fixes. They try to find a cure for autism when there isn't one, because autism is not a disease. Before we move on to what autism exactly is, I would again like to ask you guys, have you ever heard someone in your family or anywhere say that this child is spoiled or the parents are at fault when talking about an autistic child? Not necessarily an autistic child, any child, because it's hard to tell whether a child is autistic or not. But कभी ऐसा सुना है कि पेरेंट्स बोलते हैं, फैमिलीज में बोलते हैं कि बच्चा बहुत बिगड़ा हुआ है और देखो कि पेरेंट्स ने कितनी गलत इसकी अपब्रिंगिंग करी और किस तरह से बिगाड़ दिया. कभी ऐसे सुना है आप लोगों ने? And some people blame their parents at the end sometimes. Yeah, exactly, Aksa. I agree with your point. Some people blame parents that they must have done something kind of sin or bad parenting. This is actually so true. People think that autism, parents go through and have an autistic child because they did something in the past and now they're being punished for it. Okay. So this is something that is very, very common. And this is why, this brings to my point of why awareness matters so much. And we need to spread awareness, because इसी तरह से लोग misconceptions और myths अपने दिमाग में पैदा करते रहते हैं and फिर acceptance होती ही नहीं है. Okay, so coming to what is autism. Or autism spectrum disorder, it is a neurodevelopmental difference, and which means that the child is born with it. Okay, it is not something that they develop later on in life. It is something that they're born with. It is a combination of genetics and brain developmental differences, meaning that the way that their brain is developed, it's different, and the way they process the world is different. Okay, so it is not a disease. It is not at all a disease. Rather, it's just a different way of viewing the world. They interact and engage with the world in their own unique way. Why is it a spectrum? Because no two children with autism are going to be the same. Every individual with autism is different. Okay, so some may use speech to communicate, some may not use speech at all, some may use broken words to communicate. Some may use signs to communicate. अगर उनको पानी चाहिए तो पानी का sign करेंगे या gesturally prompt करेंगे, gesture से दिखाएंगे कि oh I need water bottle, right? So they may not use speech, all of them. So this is how there are communication differences. They may also कभी कभी ऐसा भी होता है कि वो ऐप से जो है, आपके पास ऐप्स होते हैं, आईपैड में ऐप्स होते हैं, उसके थ्रू कम्युनिकेट करना सीखते हैं. Okay, so these are some differences. Daily support की अगर हम बात करें, some need a lot of daily support, some need mild daily support, and some can be completely independent. It really depends from person to person, and which proves my point further that autism is a spectrum and no two people with autism are the same. Moving on to some signs and traits, communication differences, I already discussed these. When we talk about social differences में ये होता है basically children with autism or individuals with autism, they prefer to play alone, they prefer to stay alone, not because they don't want to, but because they don't know how to. Some of them prefer to stay alone, and some may want to indulge in group play, but they would struggle on how to do it. They may lack the ability to have back and forth conversations. जिस तरह कि हम लोग आपस में एक दूसरे से इस तरह से बात कर सकते हैं, वहाँ पर उस एरिया में वो struggle करता है. When we come to repetitive behaviors, what we mean by that is that repetitive behaviors and repetitive movements hoti hain. So they may flap their hands a lot, they may rock back and forth, may look from the corner of their eyes, is tarah karke dekhte hain, spin karenge, jump karenge, may walk on their tippy toes, right? So these are repetitive behaviors. When they're playing with toys, they may want to line up their toys. Car se khelenge to line up karke khelenge, ek exact tarike se khelenge. They would also insist on sameness and routines. Fixed patterns होते हैं. So they may want to wear one single shirt every single day. ठीक है, वो change नहीं करेंगे. They would want to wear that shirt, and if you interfere with those routines, they may get panicky, and उनको panic और anxiety होगी, और फिर tantrum आ सकता है. Routine का मैं ये भी एक example दे सकती हूँ कि if they've put their water bottle on the table, and they would want you to put the water bottle exactly that same way. Even if it's adjusted just a little bit, they will get panicky and it will cause them anxiety. Some of these individuals with autism have strong interests. So they may have strong interest regarding maybe memorizing maps, maybe memorizing all car brands, animals, numbers, letters. These individuals can be really, really smart as well. And this is something that we need to, be mindful of. And we forget often that autistic people, they are actually very intelligent. So, and if we actually tap onto their strong interests, they could do wonders because they really know a lot about those strong specific interests that they have. So moving on to sensory differences. So there are two types of sensory differences. One is hypersensitive and the other is hyposensitive. So when we talk about hypersensitive, that could mean that you're too sensitive to things. So maybe you're too sensitive to sounds, right? So a sound of a blender could sound like thunder to them, right? And they will cover the ears with their hands on the sound of blender or any sound that is causing anxiety in them. They may be sensitive to textures, food textures, or clothing items. And when we come to hyposensitive, that actually means that they're undersensitive to things. So they may not notice pain at all. They may get a cut, right? Bleeding or use cut se, but they will not notice it. And they will have this urge to crash into things, to spin, to run very fast. So basically undersensitive to pain and having high tolerance of pain. And both of these differences could coexist, but in different aspects. So one person may be hypersensitive to sounds, meaning कि अगर loud sound हुई या sound होगी तो they will cover their ears, but they may be hypersensitive to pain, meaning कि उनको pain feel नहीं होगा. Now, I would like to ask you to think of something you're sensitive to, something that really, really bothers you. Anything. Like if I just talk about myself, uh, I don't like the sound of chewing. If someone is chewing next to me very loudly, it really, really gives me the ick and it really bothers me. So anything like that. Sipping on coffee liquid loud sounds in it. Example. Okay. So you guys basically get the point. Now, if you think about that sensitivity that you have, now make that sensitivity 10 times stronger for those with autistic individuals, and that is their daily life. Okay, this is how they feel daily. Okay, moving on to neurodivergence. When we talk about neurodivergence, it's basically a broader term for that includes autism, ADHD, learning differences, dyslexia, and many more. Okay. Let me see if I have any questions. What is hypersensitivity? Hypersensitivity is basically when you're undersensitive to things, right? Meaning कि अगर मुझे किसी ने कट लगा है तो मुझे वो पेन फील ही नहीं होगा क्योंकि मुझे उसके लिए सेंसिटिविटी फील ही नहीं हो रही, राइट? बट अगर हाइपर सेंसिटिविटी की बात करेंगे तो वो कट हमें बहुत ज्यादा फील हो सकता है, ठीक है? हमें साउंड जो है बहुत ज्यादा फील हो सकते हैं. Okay, moving on. So what is behavior? Behavior is simply anything we do, okay? Sleeping, eating, writing, talking, going to the washroom, washing our hands, all of this is behavior. And here's the key, behavior is communication, all right? Have you ever been so frustrated because you couldn't explain what you wanted? And this is a question to everyone, you know? Like if I talk about myself only, तो मुझे बहुत गुस्सा आता है, कभी-कभी ऐसा होता है कि I'm not able to convey what I feel, and the other person is not able to understand how I feel, and then I end up getting really frustrated and I end up getting really upset. Does that happen to you? Yeah, it's happened. Now imagine these kids, they feel like that all the time. Even I've been in this field for so long. It's been 3 years I've been in this field. And to this day, there are times when I'm not able to understand how the child in front of me is feeling, what they want. And imagine being that child. So if I'm an autistic person, I see everyone around me understand one another, but I don't understand. They don't understand me, and I don't understand them. So that is why an autistic child that's how they try to communicate. They try to communicate through behavior. And when we say behavior is communication, what we need to ask is whether is this a skill that the child hasn't learned yet, or is this a will, something that the child already knows but is refusing to do so, you know. So this, if we look at it this way, this difference could actually help us a lot and change the way we respond. क्योंकि अगर स्किल की बात करेंगे, if it's a missing skill, for example, let me give you an example. There's a child who has a cup in their hand, right? They've never asked for water. They've never communicated that how to say water or ask for water, right? And all of a sudden, they drop the cup on the floor. They start screaming. They lay down on the floor. They start crying. They start throwing a tantrum. Now, you could tell that it is because of a missing skill. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to ask for water, which is why they, indulged in that behavior, because out of frustration. But when we talk about will, it could be that you've seen the child ask for water many times, but all of a sudden now, today, they decided to drop the cup on the floor and start crying and not asking it appropriately for water, right? So that's when this is will. This is something that we need to be mindful of when we're looking at a behavior. And most of the time, it's a missing skill, not lack of will. अगर missing skill होती है, then we need to teach them, then we need to prompt them. Prompting is something that I'm going to be talking about much more detail later in the session. But जब skill की बात आती है, तो अगर missing skill है, तो आपको उस तरह बच्चे की help करनी होगी. Okay, but अब bill की बात आती है, तो उसकी भी different strategies होती हैं. उसके अंदर हम reinforcement strategies use करेंगे. There could be a reason, a lot reasons that could be happening due to which the child may not want to do it. Okay, let me see if I have any questions. Talk when it's my turn. Okay, so let's come to functions of behavior. What does function of behavior mean? It is basically the why behind a behavior, the reason why something is happening, the behavior is happening. And number one, escape. There are 4 functions of behavior. The number one, escape. And before I move on to escape behavior, I would like to ask you all: have you ever avoided a task by procrastinating or pretending to be busy? कभी ऐसा कोई काम आया हो and you didn't want to do it? How did you get away with it? How do you try, even like now, how do you try to get away with things that you don't want to do? What exactly do you do? What do you pretend? What do you do? And then doing it under pressure. Sleep. Okay, so as adults, there are a lot of ways that we use to procrastinate or to escape from something that we want. Now, when it comes to a child with autism, they know just one way to escape. That is showing challenging behavior. That is showing throwing a tantrum, and that's how they get away with it. Now, children tend to escape for a bunch of reasons. Okay, we're going to touch upon a few of them. Number one is when the task that you've given them to do is too difficult. If the task is difficult, the child does not know how to do it, they're going to indulge in escape behavior. They could do it by throwing whatever item you've given them. Example, you've given them a puzzle to fix, and if they find it too complex, they might throw it away, they might start crying, they might even scream, they might even try to hit you, things like that. Because they don't know how to do it, that's why they're engaging in escape behavior. And in that kind of a situation, you need to help them. And step by step, वो skill build करनी है. अब एक बच्चा है जिसका लेवल है जहां पर वो ट्रेस कर सकता है on dotted lines, right? And now all of a sudden someone comes and they tell them to write the word cat. ठीक है? Now do you see the missing gap that they have in their skills, right? आपने एक इतना मुश्किल वर्ड काम लाकर दे दिया है जिस बच्चे को वो आता ही नहीं है, तो obviously the child is going to engage in escaping behavior. In this situation you actually also need to get to know your child better. You need to see where their skills are and where they need help. ठीक है? तो अगर it's something that is difficult for the child, it's something आपने कोई new चीज आकर बच्चे को दी है, तो try to figure out maybe they don't know how to do it, that's why they're crying or showing escape behavior. And if it's something that you very well know that the child already knows, it could be that they find it boring now. And because they find it boring, what you need to do now is you need to make it fun. आप अगर उनको राइटिंग ट्रेसिंग करवाते हैं, तो आप ट्रेसिंग उनको एक आईपैड पे ऐप में एप्स होती हैं बहुत सारी, उसके अंदर आप ट्रेसिंग करवाना सिखाएं. मेक इट फन एंड एंगेजिंग. इफ यू डोंट वांट टू गिव देम एनी स्क्रीन टाइम, आप पेंट के अंदर उनकी फिंगर्स डिप करें एंड देन आस्क देम टू पेंट on the paper using the finger and trace anything like that. Make things fun, get to know your child, and then work accordingly. Moving on to attention. Now, let me ask if he knows how to do certain tasks with affix as well, right? But all of a sudden he starts hitting that. What is the reason behind task? Right. Okay, so the reason, like I told you, when you know the child already knows something that they're doing, um, it could be that you've made them do it 100 times and now they find it boring. So you may need to change things up a little bit. You will need to make it a little engaging for the child so they find a reason to do it. पहले reason क्या था कि बच्चे को नहीं आती थी skill, so that's why they were doing it. Now अब बच्चे को skill आ गई है, so in their minds they're like, why is that person making me do this again and again, right? So make it fun, make it engaging for the child. Okay, so moving on to attention. So when we talk about attention, there are different types of attention, right? And there are different reasons for attention. One of the reasons is the child feels like you're probably neglecting them, you're not spending enough time with them, which is why they indulge in attention seeking behaviors. Now, attention does not always mean positive, okay? It does not always mean a praise. So positive attention could be like, good job, right? And negative attention could be like, stop that. They would want you to say, stop that, and they get attention. So for example, let's say in a classroom, a child starts out of the blue starts shouting, randomly. Now the teacher yells, sit down, be quiet, okay? They got the attention that they wanted, even though the teacher is scolding them, but they still got the attention that they wanted. Okay, so usually ऐसा होता है कि attention जरूरी नहीं है कि बच्चे को positive चाहिए, उनको negative attention भी मिल जाए तो they're okay with it. I feel like you guys could also tell me कि बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि पेरेंट्स कॉल पे बात कर रहे होते हैं and then they hear their child hitting their sibling or maybe just crying and randomly breaking something on the floor, because and you all of a sudden you cut the phone call and then you go to them, right? And boom, they get your attention. That's what they do. They want attention. And an appropriate way to teach them how to ask for attention could be you teach them to tap on your shoulder and say, look, right? इस तरह से आप attention की appropriate ways इनको बताएंगे कि अगर attention seeking behaviors कर रहे हैं तो to stop that you need to teach them in appropriate way, right? So tapping on your shoulder, saying mama, look, or anything, देखें, आप मतलब मुझसे बात करें, कुछ भी, बस attention एक appropriate way बच्चे को सिखाएं. And another thing that I would want to emphasize on is that it's usually we spend time on dealing with managing behavior, but what we could actually do is prevent that behavior from happening. So once you know all the functions of behavior and you start analyzing your child and observing your child, once you figure out what's the function of their behavior, why are they doing this, if it's attention, try to work on it before it actually happens, right? तो अगर attention के लिए आप क्या कर सकते हैं, अगर आपको पता है 1 से 2 बजे तक आप बहुत बिजी होंगे, 1 बजे से पहले आपने बच्चे को वो टाइम दें, connect with them, because when they're indulging in attention seeking behaviors, they're not trying to be naughty, they're basically saying, talk to me, I need you to talk to me, okay? So this is what it actually means. कभी कभी ऐसा भी होता है कि बच्चे अपने आप को हिट करेंगे, अपने आप को बाइट करेंगे एज अटेंशन के उसमें, तो उसके अंदर आप ब्लॉक करेंगे, लेकिन आप एकदम से उनके पास ऐसे नहीं चले जाएंगे, नो डोंट डू इट, बिकॉज they're again getting attention out of you, right? So you have to block them and then redirect them and teach them an appropriate way to talk to you and speak to you and to get your attention. Let me see. Okay, so guys, if there's anything important that you want to speak about, you can also use your mic and talk to me, okay? Moving on to tangibles. So when we talk about tangibles, what does that mean? It is when the child wants something and you're also willing to give it to them, but they're asking for it in an inappropriate way. So it could mean कि अभी आप बच्चे को cookie देने जा रहे हैं and the child starts crying, starts snatching it from you, grabbing it from you, tries to hit you, or starts throwing a tantrum. In that sort of a situation, when you're willing to give them the cookie, आप उस बच्चे को appropriate way सिखाएंगे. So when they're crying, you will tell them, okay, no crying for the cookie. 1, 2, 3. So while you're counting, they're supposed to be calm. So you're like 1, 2, 3. If they're hitting, no hitting for the cookie. 1, 2, 3. If they're whining, no whining for the cookie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And once they've calmed down, you model it for them. You say cookie, and then they'll say cookie, and then you give it to them. This now what they learn through this is that whenever I'm calm and whenever I ask for it appropriately, they're going to give it to me. Now, in a situation like this, it's very easy because you were willing to give them the cookie in the first place. But if it's a situation where you're not willing to give them the cookie, वहाँ पे cookie का time नहीं है, and they start throwing a tantrum and they want cookie, उस वक्त आपको कुकी उनको नहीं देनी. What you can do is you can offer them an alternative. ठीक है, आप बोल सकते हैं, we cannot have cookie right now, but here are some bananas if you want, right? And if they still start, throw a tantrum, let them calm down. Once they've calmed down, that's when you offer the alternative again. Don't give them the cookie when you're not willing to, because then you will teach them, okay, even though my mom was not willing to give me the cookie right now, it wasn't cookie time, but because I threw a tantrum, I got what I wanted, right? So this is a way to deal with it. Now, moving on to sensory. What are sensory behaviors? Sensory behaviors are those behaviors that the child indulges in. They get the urge to indulge in those behaviors because they want to regulate themselves, regulate their emotions. So it could be like hand flapping, rocking back and forth, vocal stimming. So they would, say ah. They would also sing some songs, hum songs, and stuff like that. They would repeat phrases from cartoons, which we also say echolalia. So these are sensory behaviors. And when I talk about sensory behaviors, I always like to emphasize on the fact that these behaviors are not under their control. It's the urge that they get. It helps them feel good. So don't stop them. Don't block them. It's something that they need to do in order to feel good. Until and unless those behaviors that they're indulging in are harmful for them and those around them and their setting. So some of sensory behaviors could also look like, biting their hands, biting you, or hitting themselves, banging their heads. So when something like this occurs, that's when you block it, and you also block it very gently. And these behaviors also is a way of them communicating something. So when they're trying to bite you or they're trying to bite someone else, that could indicate that oral needs meet नहीं हो रही. And for that, you teach them replacement behavior. So if they're trying to bite you or if they're trying to bite themselves, give them like a chewy stick, something that would get their needs met, but in a safer way. If they're trying to hit you, give them a pillow instead and let them hit the pillow. If they're trying to squeeze you very tightly or pinch themselves or pinch you, give them a squishy ball. Things like that. जब बिहेवियर हार्मफुल है आपके लिए बच्चे के लिए, तब आप उसको रिप्लेसमेंट बिहेवियर सिखाएं. लेकिन जब ना आपके लिए हार्मफुल है ना उस बच्चे के लिए हार्मफुल है, let them do it. Let them calm themselves down because it helps them feel good. Now, moving on to ABA. What exactly is ABA? So ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. It is a scientific approach. It is a science and evidence-based approach which helps and teach behavioral skills, and it also focuses on understanding behavior, right? And it not only works on teaching behavioral skills, it also works on reducing challenging behaviors. Not just that, it also teaches life skills like going to toilet training, washing your hands, dressing skills, eating skills, stuff like that. And one of the big primary models that we use in ABA is ABC, which we also call the three-term contingency. So ABC, A stands for antecedent, B stands for behavior, and C stands for consequence. So अभी मैं आपको एक scenario बताऊंगी. Now you would tell me what is the A in this scenario, the B, and the C. So listen carefully. There's a child and a mom. They go to a grocery store. When they go to the grocery store, the child sees chocolate. Say they try to reach for it. The mom yells, "No chocolate today!" Right? The child starts crying, lies down on the floor. Right? They start throwing a tantrum, and the mom gives the child the chocolate. Before I ask you what ABC is, let me tell you what ABC is. A is antecedent, which means what happens before the behavior, and B is the behavior itself, right? A is the trigger, B is the behavior, and C is what happens afterwards. Maybe a reward or a consequence, whatever is done after that behavior happens. So in our situation, uh, the child wanted the chocolate. They tried to reach for it. The mom said no. The child lay down on the floor, threw a tantrum, and then the mom ended up giving the chocolate. What do you think is the A and the B and the C in this scenario? A, no chocolate. Okay. B, tantrum. C, give it chocolate. Very good. Spot on. A, mother refusing. B, child throwing a tantrum. C, mother giving the chocolate. Yes, exactly. Exactly this. Now, what's going to happen is every time the child will go to the grocery store with the mother, they're going to throw the throw that exact same tantrum to get the chocolate. Not even just to get the chocolate, to get anything they want, because they've understood throwing a tantrum gets them what they want, right? So in a situation like that, what the mother needs to do is when they start throwing a tantrum, and this will take effort, this will take courage, and this will take some time. The mother needs to not give in and let them throw the tantrum, let them cry, let them lie down on the floor and throw a tantrum, and but don't give in, because if you give in, they keep learning this, right? They keep learning, every time I throw a tantrum I get what they want. So when you're not going to give them what when they're throwing a tantrum, you're not going to give them what they want, extinction will take place. So this is what we call extinction. Extinction is something that a behavior that was previously reinforced is no longer being reinforced, and when it will not be reinforced, it extinction burst होगा. And what that actually means is कि जब बच्चा एक बार रोया था और उसको चॉकलेट मिल गई, अब नेक्स्ट टाइम जब वो रो रहा है उसको चॉकलेट नहीं मिल रही, तो वो और भी ज्यादा रोएगा, वो और भी एक्सट्रीम बिहेवियर दिखाएगा, because it worked for them before and now they're not understanding why is it not working for them now. So yes, they're going to cry and throw a tantrum even more. But this is where your patience will come in. You will have to make sure that you do not give in even when the child starts showing extreme behavior. And iske andar, now this takes me to my second point, which is antecedent modification. And this is something that I love and really, really emphasize on. It's because it's easy to, tell you that, manage a behavior, right? But honestly, it's not so easy to manage a behavior if you work on preventing the behavior. So that's what antecedent modification is. So before going to the grocery store, what the mother could do is आपको एक visual schedule दिखाएं और दिखाएं आज हम लोग grocery store जाएंगे and we're going to get bananas, we're going to get apples, we're going to get crackers or anything, right? But we're not going to get chocolate. We're going to get chocolate on Friday. This is one way, right? You go to the grocery store, right? Instead of आप उसको बोलेंगे अच्छा just get banana, get apples. No, offer them choices. आप apple and banana उस बच्चे के सामने रखें और उससे पूछें do you want banana or do you want apple, and they would choose whatever item they want and just pick that and let them have it. ठीक है? Even though it's not something that they want, but they will still feel in control. So this is what we call antecedent modification. जब आप behavior आने से पहले ही बच्चे का antecedent modify करें. Is mother showing stares to the child? No, they obviously the child would know that how the mother, shows their anger, and just staring at the child is also giving them attention, and it also is something that the you shouldn't be doing. Okay, so moving on. Verbal behavior. Okay, so this is something that a lot of people get confused about. Verbal behavior and non-verbal behavior, verbal and vocal, these two terms are used interchangeably when they are quite different. Verbal behavior and being verbal actually means a child who can communicate, not just necessarily using speech. Okay, it's just a child has the ability to communicate either through signs, either through speech, either through pictures, either through an app on Proloco or iPad, anything. Okay, so verbal basically means communication, not necessarily through speech or voice. Okay, so vocal versus verbal. When we say vocal, vocal means the child has speech. They can speak, right? But they can also be vocal and non-verbal. What could that mean is that that takes me to my second point, which is spontaneous speech. So there was a client who came to me who had spontaneous speech. So what that meant was they would sing songs, they would sing poems, they would say hip hip hooray at random times. That means that the speech was there, but they will not use it to communicate. So if they wanted water and you present the water bottle to them, they wouldn't say water. Even if no matter how much you teach them, they wouldn't say it. So that means they have spontaneous speech, but not functional speech. They're not using their speech functionally. So that means they're vocal yet non-verbal because they are not communicating. Okay. And when we say non-vocal verbal behavior, that means a child who doesn't have speech but communicates using signs, using gestures, using pictures or iPad, anything, right? Agar, like, and even gestures are a way of communicating. A question to you: if you lost your voice for a week, how would you ask for water or tell someone you're in pain? How would you do it? By sign language, exactly. So that means that is also a way of communicating, right? So this is what verbal means. Verbal basically means, non-vocal verbal means that the child, okay, so that the child or the person is able to communicate what they want, right? So this is something that many of us get confused with, and if it's still not clear to you, I would love to explain it. Okay, all right. So this was the difference between verbal and non-verbal. Okay, so moving on to functional communication training. What is functional communication training? It is when you teach the child to communicate functionally. Now, iske andar, I would really emphasize on this. You have to start small and build gradually. I think there's someone with their mic on. Okay, okay. So moving on. So you have to start small and then build gradually. अगर एक बच्चा जिसकी अभी अभी स्पीच लेता अभी अभी स्पीच आई है अभी अभी वर्ड्स बोलने शुरू करें एंड यू स्टार्ट टीचिंग देम टू यूज सेंटेंसेस लाइक आई वांट वाटर आई give me water, right? They don't yet understand the concept of I want and give me, right? So just teach them one word, right? Teach them to say water when they want water. क्योंकि अगर आपने I want to give me सिखा दिया उनको I want to give me का मतलब ही नहीं पता. So they're going to use it in context that doesn't make sense. So they're going to say I want toilet, doesn't make sense. I want pee pee, give me pee pee, that doesn't make sense. So don't focus on teaching your child sentences just because it looks and sounds good, because then they're going to use it in context that doesn't make sense. So start small and then you can build gradually. Start with one word, then two words. पहले आप सिखाएं open. If they want the door to be open, teach them to say open, right? जब वो उनकी one word requesting अच्छी हो जाएगी, फिर आप two words पे आए, open door, and then you can move to phrases and sentences. Build gradually. Don't jump into sentences and like phrases. Another thing that I want to point out is functional communication training start भी इसी तरह होती है. You first try to make the child communicate for things that they like. They're reinforcers. If they like being on the swing, teach them to say swing first, right?
Hello.
Swing. Okay. Teach them to say swing. If they want water bottle, teach them to say water, right? Things like that. जो reinforcing चीजें पहले आप उससे start करें, and then you can move to more functional stuff like going to the toilet, ask you to go to the toilet, because उनकी फिर motivation to speak उसी तरह बनेगी कि जब वो एक उनको reinforcer चाहिए, उनको swing चाहिए, and when they learn कि when I say swing, I get the swing. That means they'll understand कि जो भी उनकी speech है, वो जो भी communicate कर रहे हैं, guys, please make sure your mics are off. Okay, thank you. तो जब जो उनकी reinforcers होंगे, जब उनकी लिए आप उनको तब communicate करना सिखाएंगे for the reinforcers, then you can start with more functional stuff like going to the washroom. If they need to go to the washroom, you teach them to say toilet or pee pee. पी पी फॉर पी पी, पू पू फॉर पू पू, थिंग्स लाइक दैट। क्योंकि जब रीइंफोर्सर से कम्युनिकेट करना सीखेंगे उसी तरह।
मैम ये जो डिस्टरबेंस कर रहे हैं आप काइंडली इन्हें किक आउट कर दें, क्योंकि फिर हमारा भी फिर टाइम वेस्ट होता है, लेक्चर खराब होते हैं। काइंडली इन्हें फिर किक आउट कर दें।
कैन यू प्लीज टेल मी कि किसका बार बार हो रहा है ये साउंड का इश्यू?
मैम ये तो नहीं पता, मैं तो आपका लेक्चर सुन रहा था हेडफोन्स लगा के।
All right, I'll see to it.
All right, thank you. So moving on. Now we move on to AAC devices. AAC basically means augmentative alternative communication. This is just a fancy word, but what AAC actually means is it's actually a talking tool for children or for those who do not have speech to communicate. Okay, so we have two types. We have low tech and then we have high tech. In low tech, इसके अंदर electronics नहीं होते. These devices do not need batteries, so these could be pictures, right? Or maybe signs. So it's basically an alternative way to communicate, not necessarily using speech, but using other devices. So low tech के अंदर pictures आ जाएंगे. If the child wants water, तो picture जाकर अपनी मामा को देगा water की to get water, right? They may have like a communication board at home जिसके अंदर बहुत सारी pictures हैं, foods की picture हैं, emotions की picture हैं, और जो भी बच्चे को चीज़ चाहिए उस सब चीज़ों की picture हैं. तो they could either point to that picture to get what they want, or they would either take out the picture and give it to mama and tell them कि this is what I want. So this is low tech, right? And signs होते हैं कि जिसके अंदर water का sign ऐसे हो गया, कोई भी signs है जो आप बच्चे के लिए easy signs से start करेंगे. When we talk about sign, we don't mean the universal sign language because that could be actually very difficult. When we're dealing with children with autism, आप उनको वो sign सिखाते हैं जो that is easy for them. तो अगर आप पहले आप टेस्ट भी करेंगे, आप देखेंगे water के लिए आपको ये sign करना है, right? And if they're able to do it or not, क्योंकि उनकी fine motor भी weak होती हैं, तो इसका भी हमें बहुत mindful रहना पड़ता है. So if they want water, teach them to say water, ask for water using this sign. Oh God. Then we move to high tech. High tech के अंदर electronics and batteries आ जाती हैं. तो basically iPad आ जाता है. iPad के अंदर बहुत सारे ऐसे device apps होते हैं जिसके through जो है बच्चा communicate करता है. And it's basically a voice for the child. So one of the apps that I know that I'm very familiar with is Proloco to Go. जो iPad के अंदर इंस्टॉल होती है, उसके अंदर आइकॉन्स होते हैं. सो बेसिकली स्विंग का आइकॉन हो गया, वाटर का आइकॉन हो गया. आप पिक्चर लेंगे, आपने वाटर बॉटल की वाटर बॉटल, आपने वाटर बॉटल की पिक्चर दी, आपने वो ऐप के अंदर डाली और आपने उसमें लिख दिया वाटर. व्हेन द चाइल्ड वांट्स वाटर, दे टैप ऑन द पिक्चर एंड द ऐप विल रिपीट इटसेल्फ एंड इट विल से वाटर. ठीक है, सो दिस इज वन वे, like this is a high tech AAC device. So one point is AAC support speech. बहुत सारे लोगों को और बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स को ये डर रहता है कि if they are going to introduce an alternative way of communication, उससे speech नहीं आएगी, right? उससे speech support नहीं होगी, which is actually not true. AAC actually supports speech, ठीक है, not all the time. ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है कि अगर AAC start कर दे तो आपकी speech 100% आएगी, लेकिन AAC actually does support speech. I would like to talk about my own personal experience. There was a child who used to come to me and they had spontaneous speech, right? They would sing songs here and there, phrases repeat karte the, hip hip hooray, things like that. But when it'll come for them to communicate functionally, they wouldn't use their speech. They wouldn't functionally communicate.
Ma'am, Assalamu alaikum. I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
No problem.
Kindly, thank you so much. Ma'am, kindly ये low tech और high tech वाला दोबारा repeat कर दें. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay. हाईटेक बेसिकली वो AAC डिवाइस होती है जिसके अंदर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड बैटरी की जरूरत होती है. वन ऑफ दम इज आईपैड. आईपैड के अंदर बहुत सारे ऐप्स होते हैं. एक प्रोलोको टू गो एक ऐप है जिसके थ्रू बच्चे कम्युनिकेट करना सीखते हैं. सो दैट्स बेसिकली देयर वॉइस, राइट? तो उस ऐप के अंदर आप डिफरेंट पिक्चर्स ले सकते हैं जो बच्चे को आपको सिखानी है. बोलना नहीं, आप चाह रहे हैं कि बच्चे को वो चीज़ अच्छी लगती है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, बच्चे को नगेट्स खाना अच्छे लगते हैं, बच्चे को वाटर, ऑब्वियसली यू नीड टू गिव देम वाटर. बच्चे को वॉशरूम जाना है, बच्चे को स्विंग अच्छा लगता है. आप उन सब चीज़ों की पिक्चर्स लेंगे और उनके नाम लिख देंगे उस ऐप के अंदर, ठीक है? आप जब भी बच्चे को कोई चीज़ चाहिए होगी आप ऐप खोल के देंगे, अगर बच्चे को वाटर चाहिए वो वाटर के लिए क्लिक करेंगे एंड द ऐप विल रिपीट इटसेल्फ एंड द ऐप विल एक्चुअली से वाटर, ठीक है। तो जब वाटर बोलेंगे फिर आप उनको वाटर देंगी, अगर वो नगेट्स के लिए क्लिक करेंगे आप उनको नगेट्स देंगी, एनीथिंग दैट दे वांट दे आर गोइंग टू कम्युनिकेट थ्रू यूजिंग द ऐप, okay. So when I say AAC supports speech, this brings me back to my point. जिस बच्चे के बारे में बोल रही थी वो स्पॉन्टेनियस स्पीच के साथ आया था और वो फंक्शनली कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर रहा था। अगर मैं इसको बोल रही हूँ स्विंग, दे विल नॉट से स्विंग, सो वी इंट्रोड्यूस्ड प्रोलोको टू गो टू देम and within 2 days of using the app the child started speaking functionally because they realized every time they tap on swing and the app repeats itself and says swing, they get the swing. उनको एक कॉन्सेप्ट समझ में आ गया था। यूजुअली ऐसा भी होता है, बहुत सारे बच्चे जो कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर पाते हैं, जब उनको डिफिकल्टी हो रही थी वो ये हो रही थी वो एसोसिएट नहीं कर पा रहे होते कि जब मैं ये चीज़ कर रहा हूँ तो उससे मुझे ये चीज़ मिल रही है, अगर मैं ये वाटर का साइन कर रहा हूँ तो उससे मुझे वाटर मिल रहा है। ये कभी कभी थोड़ा स्लो हो जाता है इनका एसोसिएशन, तो इसलिए आई वुड से कि AAC actually supports speech, it doesn't hinder speech. Moving on to prompting and prompt feeding. तो इसके मैंने इसके बारे में स्के बिहेवियर में भी बात करी थी एंड स्किल वर्सेस विल के अंदर भी बात करी थी कि वी नीड टू टीच when a child is struggling with doing something, we need to teach them and then we need to prompt them. It's basically any cue or help that we give the child. We could do it in a gestural way. हम gestures बता सकते हैं. For example, a child comes to you and they're supposed to hang their bag on the hook and they're not doing it. तो आप gesturally prompt कर सकते हैं उनको, okay, hang your bag, hang, and or you could model it for them. आप खुद करके दिखाएंगे या आप उनको फुल फिजिकल पे, अगर आप मॉडल भी करके दिखा रहे हैं, they're not able to do it, आप फुल फिजिकल पे उनको करके दिखाएंगे on how to hang their bag. Or it could just be vocal prompt where you just say when they come inside, they don't remember what they're meant to do, you just say hang your bag and they'll hang their bag, right? So prompting level depends on the child themselves कि child का क्या level है और वो क्या skill है जिसके अंदर आपको prompt करना है. हमारा main goal is independence, right? So when the child comes and if we just talk, if we just I'm using this example of hanging the bag, अगर बच्चा आया उसको independently hang bag अपना hang करना आना चाहिए. That is our goal, right? And to teach that we need to prompt them, right? So आप first test करेंगे, आप बोलेंगे hang your bag and the child is struggling, and then you try to see if अगर आप gesture से prompt कर रहे हैं, आप model करके दिखा रहे हैं, vocally prompt कर रहे हैं, वो कर पा रहे हैं या नहीं. अगर वो नहीं कर पा रहे तो आप full physical पे उनको prompt करेंगे, right? You will fully physically prompt them. आप उनका बैग लेंगे, आप hang करेंगे, ठीक है? Guys, please keep your mics off. It's really disturbing. Okay. तो आप full physical पे बच्चे को help करेंगे on how to hang their bag, right? And slowly this brings to prompt dependency and prompt feeding. What tends to happen is अगर आप अपना prompt feed नहीं करेंगे तो बच्चा prompt dependent हो जाएगा. तो even though they've learned the skill, but they would want you to prompt them all the time. तो इससे इनकी progress जो है hinder होगी. So prompt आप prompt feed करेंगे. अगर आपने full physical से start किया है तो आप partial physical पे आएंगे. First you'll start with full physical. You'll teach them pick up the bag, hang properly. से पूरे उनके हाथ से पकड़ के उनके बैग हैंग करवाएंगे. सेकेंड आप उसमें थोड़े दिन तक आप इस तरह करेंगे कि उसके आप पार्शियल फिजिकल पे जाएंगे कि आप वेयर यू जस्ट लाइटली प्रॉम्प्टिंग देम फिजिकली, मे बी गिविंग देम अ नज ऑन देयर एल्बो, हाथ पे थोड़ा टच करें सो दैट दे नो यू आर देयर एंड यू आर हेल्पिंग देम, एंड थोड़ा सा गाइड करेंगे, ठीक है? एंड देन यू कुड मूव टू मॉडलिंग कि आप सिर्फ मॉडल करके देखें, ओके लेट्स हैंग अ बैग, right? And then आप gestural पे भी जा सकते हैं. This is how you slowly fade your prompts. Gestures would be like, okay, you're supposed you point towards the hooks and the child should know that now they're meant to hang their bags, right? So this is our main goal to do this is because अगर आप prompt fade नहीं करेंगे, the child will be prompt dependent and फिर उससे progress बहुत hinder हो सकती है. Okay. Moving on to collaboration and consistency. So whatever you teach your child, whenever your child is coming to a therapy session or at home, जो भी आप बच्चे को सिखा रहे हैं, it's very important, parents, teachers and therapists, क्योंकि बहुत अक्सर ये होता है बच्चा behavior therapy के लिए भी जा रहा होता है, बच्चा स्पीच थेरेपी के लिए भी जा रहा होता है, बच्चा बहुत सारी जगहों पे जा रहा होता है, आर्ट क्लास के लिए जा रहा है, बहुत सारी चीज़ों के लिए जा रहा होता है. So when the child is going to various places, it's very important for us कि we teach them वही चीज. अगर फॉर एग्जाम्पल हम वाटर का साइन हमने ये सिखाया बच्चे को, when they want water they're meant to do this and then you give them water, right? It's very important कि parents, teachers, therapists, everywhere the child goes, they use that same sign for water. तो अगर वो घर पर है, घर पर अगर उसको पानी चाहिए एंड वो ये करने के बजाय वो रो रहा है, चिल्ला रहा है और आप उसको पानी दे रहे हैं, या वो सिर्फ इस तरह से रीच आउट कर रहा है एंड आप उसको पानी दे रहे हैं, तो दैट इज एक्चुअली गोइंग टू हिंडर देयर प्रोग्रेस. क्योंकि अब जब हमारे पास आ रहा है और हम उसको साइंस से वाटर दे रहे हैं और घर पर उसको ऐसी वाटर मिल रहा है, तो दे ऑल्सो स्टॉप डूइंग द साइन विद अस एज वेल. एंड साइंस का सिर्फ ये मकसद नहीं कि वो थेरेपी सेशंस में आकर साइंस करें, वो हर जगह दैट्स देयर वे ऑफ कम्युनिकेटिंग, right? So it's very important that it's consistent throughout wherever they're going. Whatever you're teaching them to do, वो हर जगह follow वैसे ही हो रहा है. So उससे faster progress होगी. Coming to schooling and prerequisites, right? So, okay, this is a question I would like to ask you. Imagine being in a class where you can't ask for water or a bathroom break. How would that feel, right? You want to have water. आपको bathroom break के लिए जाना है, बट आप नहीं बोल पा रहे, आप नहीं कम्युनिकेट कर पा रहे, आप नहीं, किसी को समझ नहीं आ रहा. हाउ वुड दैट मेक यू फील? Okay, so let me move on. My point actually is कि बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स जो हैं बच्चों को अपने स्कूल में दाखिला करवाने के लिए लेकर जा रहे होते हैं, जबकि उनकी प्री रिक्विजिट स्किल्स ही पूरी नहीं हुई होती. तो उनके पास बेसिक सिटिंग टॉलरेंस होगी. जो बच्चा 5 सेकंड के लिए भी टेबल पे नहीं बैठ सकता, आप उसको स्कूल अभी फिलहाल नहीं भेज सकते हैं. जो बेसिक फॉलोइंग इंस्ट्रक्शंस है वो फॉलो नहीं कर सकता. इफ यू सेइंग स्टैंड अप, सिट डाउन, कम टू मी, if they're not for understanding these basic instructions, so that means अभी उनकी prerequisite skills पे काम करना बाकी है. पहले उस पे काम करेंगे and then you can think about school. Basic communication, अगर उनको communicate ही करना नहीं आता, there is no way for them to communicate, neither through sign, neither through an app, and they're not communicating their needs, then it would be difficult for them in a school, right? क्योंकि अब वो स्कूल तो चले गए लेकिन अब उनको वहाँ पर सर्वाइव करना नहीं आ रहा, because everyone around them is doing everything that they want, getting what they want, but they feel lost, right? And that would be very frustrating for them. So this is something that we all need to be mindful of when we're thinking about school. Try to work on the prerequisites. उनके prerequisites पहले establish करें and then you can let them go to school. Okay, now moving on to transitions and anxiety. Transition is one of the biggest reasons why children with autism actually throw tantrums, and because they feel a lot of anxiety, right? Now, आप imagine करें, you're watching TV, okay, you're in the middle of a movie, and मैं एकदम से आ जाऊँ, मैं remote लेके TV बंद कर दूँ और बोलूँ, okay, enough movie, now it's time to go to bed, right? How are you going to feel? या मैं आके बोलूँ, नहीं, enough movie time, now you have to do your homework, do your assignment. How is that going to feel, right? It's not going to feel very good. Helpless, worried, anxious, fidgety. Exactly. That doesn't feel nice. So this is how exactly autistic children feel. क्योंकि usually ऐसे ही होता है. हमें तो basically हमें पता है, you can कि अभी इसके बाद now we're meant to do this. To explain that to an autistic child can be hard, right? That would result in tantrums. उनको एक refusal feel होगा, rejection feel होगी, and their communicating stress to you. So these are some of the informed strategies that we could use when dealing with transitions. Promise them a reinforcer. So for example, a child is playing with some toys, ठीक है? अब उस toys के बाद now you want the child to come to table time, right? You need them to do some writing or anything. लेकिन अब table time का time है. So you offer them a reinforcer. Don't give it to them. आपने कोई bubbles हैं, for example, they like bubbles, they like blowing bubbles, or they like popping bubbles. आपने bubbles उनको offer करें, सही है? And फिर उनको उससे entice किया, okay, you want bubbles? Come with me, come to table, and once they're at the table, give it to them. अक्सर लोग क्या करते हैं, वो promise reinforcer offer तो करते हैं, लेकिन जब when they bring them to the table time, और जब भी उनको उस काम के लिए लेकर आ जाते हैं, वो उनको deliver नहीं करते. They don't deliver the promise. Now that breaks their trust. Now they're not going to trust you next time. when you're going to offer them a promise reinforcer, and not just you, they're not going to trust anyone. So that's very harsh. You shouldn't be doing that. Offer them the reinforcer, and once they do what you're asking them to do, deliver it to them. Okay. Moving on to trading. So trading is something that we also do. जब अगर बच्चा किसी ऐसे टॉय के साथ खेल रहा है एंड यू नो कि अगर इस टॉय के साथ खेलते रहेगा एंड इफ यू टेक इट अवे दे माइट हैव अ टैंट्रम, और इफ यू स्टार्ट गिविंग देम इंस्ट्रक्शन टू डू समथिंग, राइटिंग आपने स्टार्ट करवानी है, तो वो टॉय उनको इतना अच्छा लगता है कि इवन इफ यू टेक इट अवे दे विल बी डिस्ट्रैक्टेड। ठीक है। सो इन दैट सिचुएशन जब ट्रेडिंग आप इस तरह से करते हैं, if I talk about myself, when I do trading, I usually do it with an edible, क्योंकि that is easier. तो अगर बच्चा किसी टॉय के साथ खेल रहा है, आपने कोई पीस ऑफ कुकी, अ चिप, एनीथिंग दैट द चाइल्ड प्रेफर्स, आपने वो टेबल पे उसके सामने रख दिया। आप उसको हाथ में नहीं देंगे, आप उसके मुंह में नहीं डालेंगे, आप सिर्फ उसके हाथ इधर सामने रखेंगे, एंड एज सून एज दे रीच आउट फॉर इट, टेक अवे द आइटम दैट दे हैड दैट यू वांट टू टेक अवे इन द फर्स्ट प्लेस। ठीक है। दैट मेक्स ट्रांजिशन वेरी स्मूथ, क्योंकि अब उनके वो खुद ही रीच आउट करें, यू आर नॉट फोर्सिंग इट ऑन देम, वो खुद ही रीच आउट करें, आप स्मूथली जो है ट्रेड कर लें द रीइंफोर्सर दैट दे हैड, द आइटम दैट दे हैड। ठीक है। सो दैट्स वन वे ऑफ ट्रेडिंग। अच्छा, another thing that we do is countdown method.
Sorry, मैम आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन।
Yes.
मैम ये मैंने पूछना था कि जो ट्रांजिशन है, इससे अगर हम कंपेयर करें रेगुलर लाइफ से, तो ट्रांजिशन की वजह से ज़्यादा एग्जाइटी क्यों हो जाती है हमें?
Because okay, if we talk about ourselves, right, हम we know as adults कि अभी हमारा अलार्म बजा है, हम सो रहे थे, अलार्म बजा, now we have to go to work, see, even though हमें थोड़ी सी हमें उठना नहीं है, कुछ भी है, लेकिन हमें एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग है कि this is what we're meant to do. With an autistic child, they don't understand that. उनको unpredictability से anxiety होती है, so which is why transition से anxiety होती है। अगर वो एक चीज कर रहे हैं और एकदम से आपने उनको हटा के किसी और चीज पे लेकर आ गए, that will cause them anxiety because they were focused on doing something and now all of a sudden that thing is removed and now they're meant to do something else. That's obviously going to cause them anxiety, क्योंकि वो उस चीज के लिए रेडी नहीं थे। एंड हमारा यही काम है, just these strategies that I'm giving you, these are the ways to actually help them prepare for transitions.
ठीक है मैम, समझ आ।
Okay, thank you. Okay, so when we talk about countdown method, for example, your child is on the swing and आपको अब swing से उतारना है, so you're going to say, okay, swing time is over in 3, 2, 1, or maybe 5 seconds से कर सकते हैं, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. While you're counting down, the child knows, okay, the child is being ready for swing to be over or whatever they're doing to be over. So this also helps them prepare and उनकी वो anxiety उससे कम होती है. Then we come to visual schedule. कुछ लोगों को बहुत ज़्यादा anxiety होती है, and if they're smart enough to understand, आप उनको एक pictures के through एक visual schedule बनाएं, right? And आप उसको वो दिखाएं. Okay, first we're going to go on the swing. Second, we're going to go to table time. Third, we're going to go for jumping, and then we're going to do writing, something like this. Explain pictures के through आप उनको explain करें. Pictures के through आप उनको explain करें ताकि it's understandable for them, right? तो and जब for example now पहले आपने उनको पिक्चर दिखाई थी कि now first we'll go to swing, so while they're on the swing and when you're about to जब ओवर होने वाला आप उसको वापस दिखाएं, okay now swing time is done and we're gonna go for table time. इस तरह से बच्चे को you help them prepare for what comes next, right? एक routine उनकी set हो जाती है. Now pair difficult with fun. So this is something that is very important. अगर हर वक्त आप टेबल टाइम पर बच्चे से डिफिकल्ट चीज़ें करवा रहे हैं, तो बच्चे की एसोसिएशन विद टेबल टाइम डिफिकल्टी हो जाएगी, राइट? दे नो एवरी टाइम आई एम एट द टेबल दे ब्रिंग आउट समथिंग दैट आई डोंट लाइक एंड समथिंग दैट आई फाइंड वेरी डिफिकल्ट, सो यू हैव टू पेयर इट विद समथिंग फन. सो टेबल टाइम के लिए भी मैं ये बहुत एम्फसाइज करती हूँ, व्हेन यू टेक देम टू टेबल टाइम, आप 5 seconds से start करें, right? 5 seconds से start करें and make them do something fun. There's a puzzle that they enjoy, anything, a toy that they like, you know, give back to them at the table, right? पहले उसको fun चीज, 5 seconds पहले fun चीज, फिर let them go, फिर 10 seconds के लिए वापस से लेकर आए and give them something fun, फिर maybe bring them to the table 15 seconds, 10 seconds something fun, and then for 5 seconds something that you want them to do. And don't jump directly to something difficult, build slowly. अगर आपको उनको puzzle pieces solve कराना शुरू करना है तो start with a puzzle piece which is very difficult. 4 pieces puzzles होते हैं जो बहुत easy होते हैं. आपको उन puzzle pieces से start करना है before you move on to something difficult. So always make sure that you pairing difficulty with something fun, right? And this brings me to the next point, which is positive reinforcement. So positive, what is positive reinforcement? When you do something and then you get rewarded for it. We go to work every day, right? We go to work because we get a salary at the end of the month, right? That is our positive reinforcement. And positive reinforcement is basically a way of life. Everything that we do is because we get positively reinforced, right? You study really hard because you want to get an A grade, right? Again, positive reinforcement. So that actually really helps. So अगर आप बच्चे को टेबल टाइम पर लेकर आ रहे हैं, कोई डिफिकल्ट चीज करा रहे हैं, you have to make sure you're reinforcing them afterwards after they do something right? ताकि उससे उनकी और मोटिवेशन बढ़े. Okay, now visual supports, again I already discussed this कि आप visually उनको visual schedules देते हैं, visual support देते हैं, videos भी इनको दिखा सकते हैं कि this is what we're going to be doing next, right? तो इससे उनको एक visual support मिल जाता है, उनको एक help मिल जाती है, and they know what is going to happen next. Then it is choice making. Okay, so how, this is a question to all of you, how do you feel when you're given a choice instead of being forced? राइट. अगर मैं आपको बोलूं कि आज जो है व्हेन यू गोइंग टू वर्क, you're going to wear आप ये वाली चप्पल पहनेंगे, आप ये वाली चप्पल नहीं पहनेंगे, आपको एक स्पेसिफिक चप्पल बोल दूं और आप बोले, मैं आपको बोलूंगी आपको यही पहननी है, हाउ वुड यू फील?
मैम एक और क्वेश्चन ये भी है कि देखें, अक्सर जब हमने परमानेंटली कोई हाउस वगैरह लीव करना होता है या स्कूल बच्चों के जब हम लीव करा देते हैं तो बच्चे, उनके दोस्त जाहिर सी बात है चेंज हो जाते हैं, बहुत बच्चे ना एग्जाइटी वगैरह में भी चले जाते हैं, तो उससे बंदा उन सिचुएशंस को किस तरह हैंडल कर सकते हैं?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question? वापस से बताएंगे?
मैम यस मैम, मैं कह रहा था कि अगर जैसे कि आपके पास रियल लाइफ एग्जांपल हैं कि जब अक्सर बच्चों के जब स्कूल्स लीव करा देते हैं, कोई उन्हें नए स्कूल में एडमिशन ले देते हैं ड्यू टू वेरियस रीजन सच एज कि हमने कहीं शिफ्ट होना है, तो बच्चे बहुत ज़्यादा एग्जाइटी में चले जाते हैं, जाहिर सी बात उनके फ्रेंड्स वगैरह चेंज होते हैं, तो उस सिचुएशन को बंदा किस तरह हैंडल कर सकते हैं?
तो एग्जैक्टली इसके अंदर हम जिस तरह से हमने पहले किया था कि मैंने ये सारी बातें बताई थी, विजुअल स्केड्यूल हो सकता है कि आप उनको दिखाएंगे कि अब हम इस स्कूल नहीं, वी आर गोइंग टू दिस स्कूल, राइट? अनदर थिंग दैट वी कुड डू इज, दिस ब्रिंग्स मी टू माय नेक्स्ट पॉइंट व्हिच इज चॉइस मेकिंग. बिफोर दे गोइंग टू अ न्यू स्कूल, आप उसके अंदर उनको कोई चॉइस फील करवाएं. आप 2 टाइप्स ऑफ शूज उनको दिखा दें, आप उनको बोलें कि डू यू वांट टू वेयर दीज शूज और डू यू वांट टू वेयर दीज टाइप्स ऑफ शूज, सो दे फील मोर इन कंट्रोल. ठीक है, डू यू वांट टू सिट एट द फ्रंट और डू यू वांट टू सिट बिहाइंड? ठीक है, तो उनसे एक चॉइस मेकिंग की जब आप उनको कंट्रोल देंगे तो वहां पे उनकी एंजाइटी थोड़ी बेहतर होगी. सही है. अगर वो, क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली व्हेन दे आर गोइंग टू अ न्यू स्कूल दैट इज गोइंग टू कॉज देम अ लॉट ऑफ एंजाइटी बिकॉज इट इज अ डिफरेंट एनवायरनमेंट, एंड उससे उनको, अच्छा, another thing that we could do is regulation that I haven't mentioned it over here, which we actually help the child do. आप co-regulation पे काम करते हैं. The child might be very anxious when they come back, so you help them regulate themselves. आप उनको काम नहीं उनको बताएंगे, आप उनको समझाएंगे कि now that, and it also depends on the kind of child you're dealing with. If it's a typical child, it's easier for you to talk to them and speak to them. आप उनको बताएंगे, yes, you're feeling anxious, and that is completely valid. क्योंकि अगर वो एंजाइटी फील कर रहे हैं, अगर आप उसको डिसमिस करेंगे, दैट्स आल्सो नॉट ओके. यू हैव टू एक्सेप्ट इट एंड यू हैव टू वैलिडेट इट एंड यू हैव टू स्पीक टू देम अबाउट इट. ठीक है. Moving on to,
Yes मैम, थैंक यू सो मच.
thank you. Okay, so in closing, behavior is basically communication. Every time a child indulges in a behavior, they're actually trying to communicate something, and we need to focus on acceptance, not cure, because there is no cure for autism. So let's listen and not label. This is it from me. This is all from me today. I'm open to any questions.
All right. If anyone have any question, please you can ask. Zohar, she would be happy to cater it all. Aisha is asking, how can we contact you?
Okay, so this is my Instagram page, yoursbehaviorally.so. You could contact me there. You could follow me for more ABA content if you want. Pairing a behavior with something fun is a form of reinforcement, right? Yeah, definitely. Agar aap pairing a behavior, could you also explain what you mean by that, behavior or a task?
मैम आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन कि हम पेरेंट्स को कैसे समझाएं उनको। एक इंसान होता है मतलब जो अनअवेयर होता है तो वो समझ जाता है, एक लोग आप कह सकते हैं कि एक चाइल्ड होते हैं मतलब वो समझते नहीं है, वो समझते हैं कि ये पीरों फकीरों वाले मामले हैं, ये है वो है, ये जिद कर है हर चीज़ के लिए, मतलब वो तावीज़ धागों की तरफ चले जाते हैं। तो ऐसे पेरेंट्स को हम कैसे समझाएं?
द थिंग इज कि ये चीज़ मैंने भी बहुत फेस करी है और बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स को मैं देखती हूँ अभी तक जो इस इन मिथ्स के पीछे ये वो भी बिलीव करते हैं। तो उनके लिए यही है कि यू हैव टू कीप ऑन टेलिंग देम। एंड वन थिंग दैट आई ऑलवेज टेल सम, आई ऑल्सो नो समवन इन माई फैमिली जिनके बच्चे को ऑटिज्म है और वो एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर रहे, राइट? सो आई कीप टेलिंग देम दिस दैट it is not a disease. If you're going to look at it this way, that's a disease, you're obviously going to be in denial. If you start accepting the fact that it's not a disease, they're just different, right? It's going to really help. And it's something that obviously, because there's lack of awareness, time के साथ ही they'll understand कि ये कोई पीर बाबा का वो नहीं है, क्योंकि अगर वो पीर बाबा के पास भी जाएंगे उनका बच्चा उनके हिसाब से फिक्स तो नहीं होगा, ठीक है? तो वो उनका ही लॉस है। So this is something that you need to tell them as well कि this is your loss if you're wasting your time, ठीक
मैम
है, by going to peers and yeah.
मैंने बहुत ज़्यादा समझाया इस चीज़ को कि ये डिसऑर्डर जो होते हैं वो ऑर्डर में कन्वर्ट हो सकते हैं और हर चीज़ का इलाज यहाँ पे मुमकिन है दुनिया में। बहुत ज़्यादा मैं पैम्पर भी करती रहती हूँ लेकिन वही बात आ जाती है, कहते हैं तुम चुप कर जाओ।
जी, अगर आप इलाज का वर्ड यूज़ करेंगे तो इलाज से उनको यही लगेगा कि कोई चीज़ इस बच्चे को मसला है। तो यही एक पॉइंट है जो आपको उनको बताना है कि इलाज की ज़रूरत है ही नहीं क्योंकि कोई मसला नहीं है। दे आर जस्ट डिफरेंट, दे अंडरस्टैंड थिंग्स डिफरेंटली, सो दैट्स व्हाई वी नीड टू हेल्प देम एंड वी आल्सो नीड टू हेल्प आवरसेल्व्स टू अंडरस्टैंड देमसेल्व्स बेटर, ठीक है? अगर हम ही उनको एक इलाज और क्योर बोलते रहेंगे कि ये इसका क्योर है, मिल जाएगा, तो उनको लगेगा कि इनका एक टाइम पे बच्चा सही हो जाएगा, ठीक है?
मैम और
सबसे
वो
पहले तो हमें जी,
ये भी कहते हैं कि चार लोग क्या कहेंगे कि ये दिमाग के डॉक्टर के पास जा रहे हैं। मैं इवन उन्हें कहती हूँ ये एक अच्छी चीज़ है, आपको भी इसमें मदद मिलेगी, आपके बच्चे को मिलेगी, वो अच्छे से ग्रो कर पाएगा। तो इन लोगों को चार लोगों की फ़िक्र होती है।
जी, एग्ज़ैक्टली। लोग ज़्यादातर दूसरों की बातों में आ जाते हैं और वो ये नहीं देखते कि अब उनके बच्चे का कितना नुकसान हो रहा है। तो वन थिंग दैट आई वुड एम्फसाइज़ ऑन इज़ कि आप अपने इर्द-गिर्द यही अवेयरनेस फैलाएँ कि ऑटिज़्म इज़ नॉट अ डिज़ीज़, ठीक है? इट इज़ दे आर जस्ट डिफरेंट। एंड इस जब आप ये बार-बार उनको बताएँगे कि वो डिज़ीज़ नहीं है, वो कोई बीमारी नहीं है, तो उनको फिर एक्सेप्टेंस आएगी। क्योंकि वो समझते हैं कि वो बीमारी है, तो वो एक इलाज के पीछे भागते हैं। जब आप उनको ये कंफर्ट देंगे कि नहीं ये बीमारी नहीं है, ये बस ये डिफरेंट है, तो फिर उनको थोड़ा मे बी विद टाइम, इट विल टेक टाइम, इट ऑलवेज टेक्स टाइम, टाइम के बाद समझ में आएगा कि हाँ ये बीमारी नहीं है, इसके लिए इलाज की ज़रूरत नहीं है, वी जस्ट हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड देम एंड उनको कम्युनिकेट करना सिखाना है।
मैम इवन मैंने उनको ये तक समझाया कि अगर आप लोग अपने रवैये सही कर लोगे, अपने बच्चों पर गौर करोगे, तो आपको थेरेपी लेने की भी ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। अगर आप लोगों को मतलब है कि आप लोगों को खौफ़ है कि हमें ऐसा होगा, वैसा होगा, ये अपना डर ना अपनी नस्ल में मतलब कर रहे हैं और ये चीज़ अपनी इनसिक्योरिटीज़ अपनी औलाद में डाल रहे हैं। अब फिर वो ब्लेम करते हैं कि हमारे बच्चे ऐसे हैं। तो बहुत
जी,
ज़्यादा
आप बहुत
समझाया
अच्छा कर रही हैं, आप
ऐसे
यू आर
मैं
डूइंग अ वेरी गुड जॉब इन हेल्पिंग देम एंड कीप डूइंग दैट, कीप एट इट एंड आप उनको जितना सपोर्ट कर सकती हैं अपनी तरफ से करें। इंशाल्लाह एक टाइम आएगा दैट दे विल बी अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ दिस। Are there any other questions from anyone?
थैंक यू सो मच मैम।
Thank you.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Soha, for the wonderful
Thank
session.
you.
I believe the way you have discussed about APA strategies and actually how to deal with such children, they have you have basically provided insight even for those parents, for those individuals who are not from background of psychology. और ये बहुत बड़ा इशू आता है उन पेरेंट्स के लिए जिनको दे आर नॉट keep quiet. They are not part of psychology background, but they need guidance on how to educate themselves and their children, because I believe कि therapist का तो role होता है to deal with such children, but I believe parents they need more education regarding it because वो 24/7 उनके साथ होते हैं.
Definitely, you raised a very good point, and this is something that we also tell parents that the child is coming to us for an hour, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, but they're with you 24/7. So what we do here is something that has to be followed at home as well, ताकि consistency takes place and फिर progress इतनी ही तेज होगी. That's a very good
मैं
point.
मैं जिस एरिया से हूँ ना, चकवाल के एरिया से हूँ, और साथ में बहुत ज़्यादा गाँव भी हैं। यहाँ पर लोग मेंटल हेल्थ को ऐसे समझते हैं जैसे कोई बला है। यहाँ पे इवन के साइकोलॉजी का डिपार्टमेंट भी है, साइकोलॉजी के टीचर भी हैं, लेकिन साइकोलॉजी में कोई भी एडमिशन नहीं लेता। देखे ना, कितना यहाँ पे
जी,
डिफिकल्ट है, चैलेंजेबल। और ये लोग
definitely.
समझ नहीं रहे, और उल्टा कहते हैं ना कि उल्टा चोर कोतवाल को डांटे। एक तो होता है बंदा, मतलब चले आपको नहीं है पता, अगले बंदे को पता है तो समझ लो, उसकी बात सुन लो, आगे ग्रो
जी.
करो। ये लोग बड़ा तशद्दुद करते हैं इस मामले में, और किसी को, अपनी बेटी को, अपने बेटे को जाने ही नहीं देते साइकोलॉजी में। ये चीज
But
है।
Hira, you're doing a very good job in attending these sessions. इससे आपको awareness होगी, and I'm sure inshallah you will also be creating awareness. And आपकी जैसे ही लोगों की जरूरत है आपके एरिया में, and keep doing what you're doing.
यस मैम, बस दुआ करें कि मैं कामयाब हो जाऊं। बहुत ज्यादा स्ट्रगल है मेरा इसके पीछे, और
इंशाल्लाह.
एनजाइटी भी, डिप्रेशन, सब कुछ हुआ है।
कोई बात
Inshallah,
नहीं,
inshallah.
इंशाल्लाह.
We are with you.
इंशाल्लाह.
अच्छा जोहा, आयशा इज ऑल्सो आस्किंग कि आप इंटर्नशिप करवाती हैं कुछ स्पेशल एजुकेशन के हवाले से. शी इज आस्किंग.
Okay, regarding these questions, you can contact me on my page, and then I can get back to you.
All right, perfect. So
Okay.
thank you so much Zoha, and sincere
Thank
apologies.
you.
आज बहुत ज़्यादा डिस्टरबेंस हो रही थी. I don't know
No
what's wrong,
problem.
what happened. मे बी संडे का दिन है तो काफी लोग बैठे
हो
हुए हैं
सकता है.
फ्री टाइम.
इसलिए कभी-कभी बीच में जो है ना मैं स्ट्रगल कर रही थी, मैं I would lose my train of thoughts. तो
Yeah,
apologies
definitely
for
आप
that too.
डिस्टर्ब होते हो.
No, no.
So anyway, thank you so much for your time, and
Thank
जो भी
you.
feedback किसी ने देना है, if there's any question, you can always reach out to the WhatsApp group. I'm turning it on. Share your feedback, ask questions, and thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.